Have you ever wondered if the stories of the Old Testament are more than just religious texts? Could there be real, tangible evidence buried beneath the sands of time, proof that the events described actually took place? While the Bible is often seen as a book of faith, archaeology has uncovered fascinating discoveries that shed new light on ancient biblical events. These findings offer a glimpse into the world of the Old Testament, giving us a chance to connect with history in a whole new way. Let's grab our gear, throw on our trusty fedora, and dive into the compelling world of archaeology and the Old Testament. Our first stop takes us to the ancient city of Jericho, a place steeped in biblical history. The book of Joshua tells the epic tale of the Israelites marching around the city for 7 days, their trumpets blaring, until finally the walls came crashing down. It's a story that has captivated people for centuries, but is there any truth to it? Well, in the 1930s, archaeologist John Garstang uncovered something remarkable: a collapsed wall dating back to around 1400 BCE. It was a major discovery suggesting that Jericho had indeed suffered a catastrophic destruction, and get this, the remains showed that the city's defenses weren't breached by conventional means. The walls seemed to have fallen outward, almost as if they had been shaken to their core, but that's not all. Later excavations by Kathleen Kenyon in the 1950s added another layer to the mystery. They found evidence of intense burning, with charred grains and other materials scattered throughout the ruins. This lined up perfectly with the biblical account, which describes Jericho being put to the torch by the Israelites. Now, there's still debate among scholars about the exact dating and the cause of the destruction, but the archaeological evidence at Jericho is pretty compelling. It suggests that there's more to this biblical story than just myth and legend. For centuries, skeptics have questioned the historicity of King David. Was he a real king, a legendary hero, or something in between? Well, in 1993, archaeologists made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the world of biblical scholarship. At a site called Tel Dan in northern Israel, they unearthed a fragmented stone inscription known as the Tel Dan stele. Dating back to the 9th century BCE, it was inscribed in Aramaic, and here's the kicker: it clearly mentions the House of David. This was huge. It was the first time that King David's name had been found in any archaeological context outside the Bible. And it wasn't just some passing reference. The inscription describes a victory by a king of Damascus over both the kings of Israel and the House of David. This tells us that David wasn't just a local chieftain. He founded a dynasty that was recognized and even feared by its neighbors. The Tel Dan stele provided powerful evidence that King David was a real historical figure, not just a figment of biblical imagination. And it showed that his kingdom was significant enough to be mentioned in the annals of other ancient civilizations. Chapter 3. The Moabite Stone, A King's Perspective. Our quest for the truth behind the Old Testament takes us next to Jordan, where a remarkable discovery sheds light on the biblical account of King Mesha's rebellion against Israel. Picture this: it's 1868 and a group of missionaries stumble upon a large black basalt stone covered in ancient writing. This, my friends, was no ordinary rock. It turned out to be the Mesha stele, also known as the Moabite Stone, dating back to around 840 BCE. Inscribed on this stone is a first-hand account from King Mesha himself, detailing his successful revolt against Israel after the death of King Ahab. It's like finding a lost chapter of the Bible, written from the perspective of the enemy. And what's even more intriguing is that the inscription corroborates events described in the Book of 2 Kings, giving us a glimpse into the political and military struggles of the time. But here's where it gets really interesting. The Mesha stele also mentions the name Yahweh, the God of Israel. This makes it one of the earliest known references to Yahweh outside the Bible, proving that the God of the Israelites was known and acknowledged by their neighbors. Chapter 4. Hezekiah's Tunnel, Engineering Marvel or Biblical Myth. In the heart of Jerusalem lies an engineering marvel that has puzzled and intrigued people for centuries: Hezekiah's Tunnel. This underground passage, carved through solid rock, was built to protect Jerusalem's precious water supply during a time of war. The Bible tells us that King Hezekiah, fearing an invasion by the Assyrians, had his engineers redirect water from the Gihon spring into the city, channeling it through a secret tunnel to the pool of Siloam. This would ensure that Jerusalem had access to water even if the Assyrians laid siege to the city. For a long time, the existence of this tunnel was debated. Was it just a biblical legend, or was there something more to it? Then in 1880, a remarkable discovery was made. Inside the tunnel itself, etched into the wall, was an ancient Hebrew inscription known as the Siloam Inscription. This inscription, dating back to the 8th century BCE, describes how the tunnel was constructed, how the workers dug from opposite ends, and how they miraculously met in the middle. It's an incredible testament to the ingenuity and skill of the ancient engineers. The Siloam inscription is like a voice echoing through the ages, confirming the biblical account of Hezekiah's tunnel and giving us a glimpse into the challenges and triumphs of ancient engineering. Chapter 5: The Dead Sea Scrolls' Ancient Secrets Revealed. Our final stop on this expedition takes us to the shores of the Dead Sea, where in 1947 a discovery was made that would revolutionize our understanding of the Old Testament. It all started with a Bedouin shepherd who stumbled upon a hidden cave in the cliffs of Qumran. Inside that cave, and in several others nearby, were thousands of ancient fragments carefully preserved for centuries. This, my friends, was the treasure trove of the Dead Sea Scrolls. These scrolls, dating back more than 2,000 years, included some of the oldest known copies of the Hebrew Bible, along with other religious texts, commentaries, and even letters. They offered an unprecedented window into the world of ancient Judaism, at a time when Jesus was alive. But here's why the Dead Sea Scrolls are so important. The biblical texts they contained were remarkably similar to the Hebrew Bible we know today. Despite being separated by centuries of copying and translation, the core message had remained incredibly consistent. The Dead Sea Scrolls provided powerful evidence for the reliability of the biblical text, showing that it had been carefully preserved over millennia. Utra the Past speaks archaeology and the Old Testament. From the fallen walls of Jericho to the ancient inscriptions that corroborate biblical accounts, archaeology continues to uncover evidence that supports many details found in the Old Testament. While not every biblical event has been confirmed, discoveries like the Tel Dan Stele, the Moabite Stone, Hezekiah's tunnel, and the Dead Sea Scrolls provide compelling reasons to take the Bible's historical claims seriously. These artifacts aren't just dusty relics, they're tangible links to the past, whispering stories of ancient kings, epic battles, and the enduring power of faith. So, what do you think? Does archaeology prove the Bible, or does it simply reinforce what believers already know? Whatever your perspective, one thing is certain. The past is still speaking to us, and the sands of time have yet to reveal all their secrets. Who knows what incredible discoveries await us just beneath the surface, waiting to shed more light on the mysteries of the Old Testament?